Good evening. I'm going to call to order the council meeting for November 2nd, and I will call on Councilmember Bob Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Would you all please join me in a moment of silent reflection? And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Rush, would you call the roll? Here.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Marriott.
Here.
Councilmember Simpson.
Here. Thank you. And at this time, I'd entertain a motion to excuse Mayor Williams. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I move to excuse Mayor Williams for this evening's business meeting.
Passes 6-0. He is excused. Councilmember Jones, did you wish to speak? Okay. Perfect. And are there any changes or corrections to the minutes of October 19th? Seeing none, we will accept as submitted. And we have some recognitions tonight. Councilmember Jones, do you want to kick us off?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I've always wanted to say that. Sounds kind of fun.
I like when you say it too.
I'm not going to say it again, though. So it's my honor and privilege this evening to read a proclamation for Small Business Saturday. While every Small Business Saturday is important, it feels like this one is even more important with the economic hardships that our small businesses, especially here in Arvada, have suffered over the last year. So I'm truly honored to be able to read this to the record tonight and present it to those that are here. But this Saturday after Thanksgiving, November 28th, 2020, is known as Small Business Saturday. The Arvada Visitor Center, the Arvada Economic Development Association, the Arvada Chamber, and the Old Town Business Improvement District, along with the Arvada Resiliency Taskforce, are partnering and asking people to shop Arvada small business this holiday season, highlighting the National Shopping Holiday, November 28th, which is referred to as Small Business Saturday. Small businesses create jobs, boost Arvada's economy, and preserve neighborhoods. Each purchase made in Arvada goes to pay for city services such as police, parks, and street maintenance. Keeping the dollars in Arvada helps create and retain quality jobs. Small businesses are the nation's largest employer and account for the majority of job growth. Next time you make a purchase, remember to shop Arvada. I just want to share with you a couple of statistics also. These are maybe a little dated, but it means the same thing. But for every dollar we spend in the city of Arvada, about 50 cents of that goes back into the economic impacts for our local community. And so it's important that as you're thinking about today and tomorrow and for the rest of this year, to find whatever you can find in our great city of Arvada and help our small businesses. But with that, I'll read the proclamation. Proclamation, City of Arvada, whereas the government of Arvada, Colorado celebrates local small businesses and the contributions they make to the local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 30.7 million small businesses in the United States that represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States, are responsible for 64.9% of new jobs created from the year 2000 to year 2019. And whereas small businesses employ over 47.3% of the employees in the private sector in the private sector in the United States, and whereas 94% of consumers in the United States say Small Business Saturday has had a positive impact on their community, and whereas the most reported reason for consumers aware of the day to shop and dine at small independently owned businesses was to support their community, 96%. And whereas Arvada, Colorado supports local businesses that create jobs, boost local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, the mayor and the city council of the city of Arvada, Colorado, do hereby proclaim November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of Arvada to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday throughout the year, dated the second day of November 2020, signed by the mayor and all members of council. And I believe I'll bring this down to the awesome people at the podium.
Is it okay for us to get a picture? Okay, great.
Absolutely.
And just really quick, thank you so much for this proclamation this evening. We're very excited. All of us are here at the Visitor Center. Cammie with the Chamber, Daniel and I with the Ida, and the other task force members are very excited, and we look forward to kicking off this holiday season and doing a lot of sales for our businesses.
It's a nice social distance picture. And Ms. Welch from the Arvada Chamber, did you want to say a few words?
Thank you very much for recognizing this. As you guys noted, this is such an incredible thing right now that we need to take advantage of our wonderful small businesses in this community. So thank you for your ongoing support.
And thank you for everything you've done at the Chamber for our business community. We appreciate you. At this time, call on Councilmember Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have the great honor to present a proclamation for Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week. The state of Colorado has designated the second week in November to recognize law enforcement records personnel. Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week was first enacted by Governor Hickenlooper in 2018. The records professionals perform a variety of comprehensive tasks that provide customer service to the community while supporting the core mission of law enforcement agencies. This skilled working group works together to ensure the accuracy of complex record gathering, reporting, and dissemination of materials. Working within state and national crime computer systems, records technicians maintain the integrity of reporting systems that are critical to providing information for investigators, administrators, officers, and the public. Records personnel are crucial to assisting law enforcement agencies identify, pursue, capture, and process suspected criminals, significantly improving apprehension strategies across the state. I believe, is Erica Gallegos, records supervisor, here, as well as Candy Harris? If you guys would come on up to the podium, I'd like to read this proclamation. This proclamation says, whereas dedicated law enforcement records personnel serve to provide vital services and are crucial in assisting law enforcement agencies to identify, pursue, capture, and process suspected criminals. And whereas these professionals continually use their expertise and experience in maintaining criminal justice statistics and improving apprehension strategies. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff law enforcement records is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. And whereas law enforcement records personnel serving in the city of Arvada have exhibited professionalism, efficiency, and compassion during the performance of their essential duties. And whereas the state of Colorado has designated the second week in November to recognize law enforcement records personnel. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and city council of the city of Arvada, Colorado, hereby recognize the period between November 9th, 2020 and November 13th, 2020 as Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week. And this is signed by Mayor Williams and all members of City Council. And I will bring this down to you guys, and if you would, I'd love it if you could say a few words.
Absolutely.
First off, thank you guys so much for this. This is obviously a very new recognition for us, and those of us that quietly work behind the scenes, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So Eric and I just wanted to express our gratitude to you all and to our wonderfully dedicated, innovative, passionate, professional APD records team. This year, along with everyone else, they've been amazing. Amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all you do, and you are a big deal. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'll call upon Councilmember Simpson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So it is my great honor to present the proclamation for Native American Heritage Month. In 1990, Congress and President H.W. Bush recognized the unique place Native American Indians have in our history by designating the month of November as National Native American Heritage Month. The month is a time to celebrate rich and diverse cultures, traditions, and histories, and to acknowledge the important contributions of Native peoples. Native American Heritage Month is also an opportune time to educate the general public about tribes, to raise general awareness about the unique challenges Native people have faced both historically and today in the present, and the ways in which tribal citizens have worked to conquer these challenges. And in line with this, before I read the proclamation, I wanted to start by acknowledging that the Arvada we know and love today historically is the traditional territorial lands of the Cheyenne and Apache peoples. Many other Native tribes have also hunted, gathered, traded, and healed on these lands, including the Kiowa, Utes, Lakota, Comanche, Shoshone, and Apache. I want to celebrate these peoples as the original inhabitants and stewards of our beautiful lands. Now, the proclamation of the City of Arvada. Whereas, during the National Native American Heritage Month, we celebrate the rich tapestry of Indigenous peoples and honor their sacrifices, which we recognize is inextricably woven into our history of this country. And whereas our country is blessed by the character and strength exemplified by Native Americans who have answered the call of service in our armed forces in greater number per capita than any other population in the United States. And whereas Native Americans have enriched our heritage and continue to add all aspects of our society through generosity of culture and the continued practice of teaching economic, environmental, and cultural sustainability. And whereas this is the time to recognize Native American cultures, contributions, history, art, and traditions. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Arvada, Colorado, hereby recognize November as Native American Heritage Month and urge our citizens to join in this observance. Signed on November 2nd by the Mayor and all members of City Council. Unfortunately, we have no representative here to receive this tonight. The Dr. Susan Anderson chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution is honored to request and receive the proclamation, and we will have it mailed to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Simpson. And now we've got a presentation from the Arvada Resiliency Task Force. Mr. Devon.
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council, it is a pleasure tonight that I invite Daniel Riley on behalf of the Arvada Resiliency Task Force, and you'll be hearing more about that in this presentation. The other partners of that task force are here, and they've done a wonderful job in working to keep our local economy upright during this pandemic, and we're proud of the work they've done. So Daniel, would you like to come up?
Yes, I'll also invite Cami Welch from Arvada Chamber.
Thank you, Cami.
Well, good evening again. Thank you for allowing us a few minutes to share with you what the Arvada Resiliency Task Force has been up to. Do I say next slide? How do we keep this? Logistics. Oh, yes, and I'm Cami Welch. I'm the president of the Arvada Chamber of Commerce. So kind of kicking things off today, who is the Arvada Resiliency Task Force? This has been the most incredible collaboration that this community could ask for. You can see on the screen all of the incredible partners that came together very quickly starting middle of March to understand and drive action around the impacts of COVID-19.
Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Daniel Riley, Executive Director of Arvada Economic Development Association, and co-presenting with Cami here tonight. Very excited to share with you what we've been up to as the Arvada Resiliency Task Force and the impact that we've had. Next slide, please. Just to frame up our presentation today, we really just want to highlight the keys to our success so far as we perceive the great work that we've been doing, the impact that it's had, including the collaboration, which we will get into, our rapid response, the feedback between the business community and the City of Arvada and City Council via this task force, your tremendous support, as well as Mr. Mark Devens in providing us resources to help all these businesses, the impact of the communications work that Allie and Jean and Danielle and their team have been having throughout this process, how we're really trying to balance the work that we're doing and how we're measuring the success. And so excited to delve into those a little bit more in depth over the next couple slides here.
We'll go next slide. Awesome. So as I noted at the beginning, collaboration has truly been the key to the success of what the Resiliency Task Force has seen. So you can see outlined here all of the different partners that have contributed in really meaningful ways. And I think what's impactful is that we've worked hard to have role clarity, and everybody understands how they can help improve the environment for our local businesses right now, and have worked collectively by all of these items you see here to make the magic happen.
Next slide, please. So the next key to success, rapid response. This task force was set up very quickly by Cami, and we quickly joined in thereafter to understand how we can respond and support businesses in crisis. And throughout every step of the way, we've been there. And one of the most important things I think we're realizing that we had done well was the speed at which we listened and responded and delivered resources and programs into the community. And this slide here is just an example of some of those things that really are standout programs that Arvada really led the way as a regional and even national leader in some of these cases, highlighting things such as the Resiliency Task Force itself and the model that we've used, your efforts in deploying $2.5 million in loan funds back in April in a matter of days from conception. The city's response through expanding policy to allow businesses to use spaces more creatively, including the closures of the streets in Old Town and the Common Consumption District, and the work that our liquor license and the city clerks have done. And then most recently, again, deploying a new round of business funding that we'll talk a little bit more about that impact as recently as last month. So that I think was one of the major keys for our success, is just how fast these resources got deployed.
So this,
Sorry, this was my slide, I'm sorry. Okay. This is just an example of how we were there every step of the way. So from a governor or state mandated business closure and restrictions on businesses to the fallout of businesses losing customers and needing finance. This is just an example, a little roadmap of some of those key highlights that we've been there lockstep with these businesses throughout every single challenge that they've faced.
So one of the pieces of this is making sure we're gleaning feedback, and as Daniel noted, being a step ahead of where the need is. And so through this, we've worked to keep a pulse on our business community, things such as listening, using surveys, focus groups, postcards, engagement campaigns, and calls to really work and understand exactly what those needs are and how we support them in a timely and relevant fashion. We've worked to understand, is something an anomaly? Is one business having that challenge, or is there a trend or theme that we need to address through a more programmatic or systemic way? We've found gaps. We understand where there's opportunities for us to step in and provide resources, and we've deployed efforts by creating our own, resourcing different activities happening around us, and supporting advocacy and policy changes. And so there's been many times when we're sitting at the table with public health and other key stakeholders to help understand those dynamics between businesses and the impacts that the decisions being made have. So we've been really lockstep with that. And then we're consistently evaluating those feedback loops to make sure the programs we implemented are still working, and that we should continue them or reframe them to support where we are that day.
Next slide, please. So the next key, resourcing. Again, tremendous thanks to the City of Arvada, Mark Devin, your support of our efforts, and of course, you as our City Council, trusting us that the needs that we are bringing forth and the opportunities are legitimate and valid concerns and needed to be addressed. And you couldn't have stepped up in a bigger way than through the delivery of CARES Act funds into the various programs that were designed in partnership with the City of Arvada and the Arvada Resiliency Taskforce. This is just a quick summary of how some of those major resources for businesses were broken down, including a major win, which was to convert the loans that you had initially provided to businesses into grants and usher in an additional 30 businesses to receive those grants. An additional $1.5 million in grants, as we just mentioned, in October. That's going to help another 150 businesses or so, providing the Chamber with a tremendous amount of resources to keep them up and running, to manage all of these programs going out to businesses. The Chamber's also stepped up to provide these mini grants, which have been a huge success, delivering grants from $1,000 to $5,000 to businesses to implement changes in their business to adapt to the health orders. The Old Town Business Improvement District using those resources to actually program Old Town street closures and do placemaking to make that space safe and inviting. Another $120,000 to the Arvada Visitor Center. Thank you, Jean's here with us, to really market business recovery and draw those consumers back into our businesses. And the City of Arvada itself procuring $100,000 in universal PPE like masks and sanitizers and gloves and all the things that businesses were struggling to get and couldn't get at a fair price. The city bought those, and through the Chamber, those were able to get distributed in kits to many businesses across the entire city. So I wanted to just provide you this quick snapshot of exactly how those resources were implemented and used across our business community.
So communications has been another really critical piece of this. Certainly, as we noted earlier, those feedback loops, but then those external messages to make sure people understand and we keep consumer confidence up, supporting our businesses. So public and media relations, Daniel mentioned Danielle, who has been an incredible supporter, along with Jean and Allie and all of those other wonderful people that work hard to communicate all the great things that are happening in our community. We did work to kind of reimagine Invest in Arvada and have been thrilled to see that deployed. And as you see on the buffs and around Arvada, that message is being embraced, which we love. We also have worked to draw both internal customers, those who live in Arvada, and those who are external, to come and support our Arvada businesses through an incredible amount of media and paid advertising opportunities. Additionally, we've attracted investment into Arvada amidst the pandemic. So lots of great positive communication strategies that have happened.
Next slide, please. So this is really important, this idea of balance. We are looking at this at a macro level, but also at the micro level. We want to do what's right with this money and the resources we have to ensure the best possible opportunity for broad economic recovery, which will create equity of opportunities for all of our businesses. But at the same time, these businesses are not numbers. These are people, these are families in our community. These are people we know and we care about. And we have to also understand the impact and the gravity of these businesses facing incredibly challenging decisions about their own operations. If they're going to continue, are they going to remain in the spot that they're at or have to leave? Are they going to have to let people that they employ go that they care about, like family? So really taking the approach of what are the individual perspectives, but how does that drive and support the collective efforts and collective impacts that we're trying to achieve, so that we both can cater to that individual business owner's needs, but also lift up the entire business community, entire economy. So really taking time to be thoughtful in our approach to all the resources and programming, and not just looking at everything as a number or a statistic.
So this is my favorite slide because it shows you really the impact that we've seen in our businesses that have been supported throughout this. So I won't go through each of these different programs and opportunities for assistance, but you can see that there's some incredible numbers ranging from 9,400, which at this point is well over 10,000 page views on the Coronavirus Business Toolkit, where they're finding resources to support their businesses. We've got well over 200 businesses that have taken advantage of the Safe and Open campaign and pledge. The PPE distribution is pushing 300 businesses now. So we've seen incredible impact for our businesses, and it's been really heartwarming to hear the stories of impact from businesses, of how these resources, this support, has helped them to get through a really difficult time. So again, thank you for all your support in making that happen.
And we also want to understand not only the breadth of businesses that we're reaching and supporting, but what are we paying attention to help us know if we're on the right track. These are our measurable indicators, and I'll be very clear that these are not something that we're looking at as a direct relation or causation to the work that we've been doing, but things that we need to pay attention to know if we're moving in the right direction. And I would argue that our efforts have definitely helped. Arvada is already a very strong and resilient community for businesses. We already have a lot of great businesses and great people who support those businesses in this community, but I think that our efforts have helped. I think our efforts have moved the needle, and they've positioned us as a leader regionally. And here are just some of the things that we're looking at. Like I said, we can't say that these things happen just because of the work we did, but we can say that these things are moving in the right direction. Everything from our sales tax revenue. Again, we're very fortunate where we are positioned in the state as a leader in this category, being able to continue generating revenue that sustains the local government and how that's reinvested into the community. Our unemployment rate seeing an incredible dip from March till now of almost 6%, from over 12% down to now almost 6%. Just looking at a foot traffic analysis of what's going on in places like Old Town, where back in March there was only 20,000 people estimated to have visited Old Town, and they're used to 10 times that many people every month. And moving that needle up now to closer to 160,000 people, if not beyond that now. Some of it, again, this data, as Cammie alluded to, is a little bit outdated just for the sake of how we receive the information. Seeing a net increase of Arvada business license of 54 new businesses net in this time period that we've been in the pandemic, I think says a lot. We are working on heat maps that we'll be able to share with the community very soon that shows the widespread distribution of all these programs throughout our entire business district, from Old Town to Candelas to the North Wadsworth corridor to Ward Road and 64th Avenue and Westwoods. These resources were deployed universally and equitably across the entire city. And earned media, Cammie mentioned the value of having our team with Allie and Jean and Danielle, and I also have to give Ben Irwin a lot of credit here for tag teaming our efforts with the power of the city's communication behind it. Over 250 stories, and this was just as of August. 250 stories of Arvada businesses and Arvada success stories featured in regional and statewide news outlets. $250,000 is the quantified value of that earned media that we didn't pay a dime for, because we're communicating these messages out. And 15 million impressions, at least, of how many people have seen or heard about the great things going on in Arvada and with our businesses.
So what's next? Lots of things. Obviously, we've got a lot of work ahead of us still to continue to support our businesses over the coming months. We're going to continue to keep that pulse that I mentioned earlier, that business health evaluation, understanding who needs support, looking at industries and trends and how we deploy resources to specifically target those that need the support that they need. We're surveying businesses a lot right now to understand exactly where the pain point is, and we're hearing things like we need more customers. We're still having a hard time with getting PPE, and so we're keeping that pulse to understand. We're going to continue to respond quickly. The Arvada Resiliency Council Task Force is still meeting on a weekly basis, sometimes more, dependent on the state of what's happening around us, and we're going to continue to do that so that we can keep our resources aligned and move quickly to respond as needed. We are working closely with UC Denver students to create a overview of what could this task force be going forward. We've seen the incredible power of collaboration, and while we've all always really loved each other and worked together closely, this has given us a new opportunity to really connect and show the power when a community comes together to solve a problem. So we're excited to see where these students come up with some ideas and challenge opportunities for us to overcome. And then finally, alignment with the Arvada Resiliency Task Force and the City Resilience Framework. We see incredible partnership potential with what's been formed to date, and we look forward to pursuing that further.
So with that, we'll open it up to any questions if there is time, or we are happy to conclude.
Any questions? Councilmember Pfeiffer.
I just want to say thank you. I mean, it's that's simple, but it's such a complex thing you're working on, and I'm proud of the council giving you the tools to be successful, and I appreciate the follow-up and the information. we were just talking tonight that if we have another lockdown, we're all worried what the next thing will do. So we're all going to keep our fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. And all I can say is continue to shop local, continue to shop and patronize your favorite restaurants. And there's a lot of people that took risks right now to also open as well as trying to maintain their business. So being a former small business owner and going through the recession, I understand the pain. And this is a lot worse than, in my opinion, than the recession. So I just encourage anyone watching tonight or anything to continue to focus on our local shops. And again, I want to thank you and the Resiliency Task Force for all you do and you do every day for our businesses and our community.
Thank you, Councilman.
I just assumed you were going to speak. Councilmember Marriott, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to echo Councilmember Pfeiffer's comments. Thank you for what you've done. I can't tell you how good it is for us to have partners like you in the community who not only can, but who will pick up this ball and run with it and do what, frankly, we probably couldn't have, we definitely could not have done. And so thank you for all the effort, all the extra effort, everything that it's taken. And as I say in government a lot of times, what we do is important, but oftentimes the way we do it is as important, or maybe sometimes even more important than what we do. And I think this is a perfect example of that. What you're doing is incredibly important, but the way you've gone about it, the way you've done it, has been at least as important as what you've done. So again, echoing Mr. Pfeiffer, I'd like to say thank you as well. Great job. There's lots more work to be done. I think this thing is going to drag on for a while, and I'm really proud to see that you're already looking at that, constantly looking at those next steps. What's next? What can we do next? And so again, thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I would like to say thank you also. I mean, you have responded to this pandemic with such a fierce swiftness that it's incredible to imagine the work that you have done and how quickly and efficiently you've done it. That one slide that said the governor released the order on March 5th and the Arvada Chamber came out with their toolkit on March 6th. I mean, 24 hours, rock star status, seriously. So whatever you need from us, let us know. And this is a marathon and not a sprint. And thank you for all the great work and the endurance. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, we got Councilmember Simpson. Go ahead.
I decided to jump on the bandwagon and just re-echo how much we appreciate all of you. This has been a wild year for everyone, not least of all me as my first year. It's a bit of a crash course and could not do any of this without the leadership that you guys have exhibited in our community. So just thank you so much for that and for just being the excellent partners that you are. And I'm excited because I think there might even be some positive changes that we wind up keeping. I know I'm not the only person to be pretty excited about the street closures in Old Town and other opportunities that may arise from this. So thank you for everything you've done to just even strengthen our community throughout the crisis. It's been wonderful.
Very good. Thanks, guys. All right, and at this time we have public comment for any issues not on the agenda. Our audience doesn't seem to be flooded with those, but I know we have Mr. Archer that's going to come and speak to us during public comment. This is very exciting, Mr. Archer. We'll make sure we turn on the clock. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh boy. Ben, let me know when the clock starts. Madam Mayor Pro Tem and council members, thank you for the opportunity to come speak. We're going to present the third quarter financial tonight as fast as we can. Next slide, please. Just so everybody knows, the third quarter financial report, along with all of the previous financial reports through 2017, are available on arvada.org. Overview, sales tax and building revenues continue their positive trend. All of the revenues are down and are trending in that direction. Expenditures are in line with budgets. The city did not cut any of its capital projects during this period of time. In fact, we tried to push many of those forward. You can see just a small list of some of the larger ones. We just heard a bunch about our CARES Act funding, and we'll go over some of that here in just a bit. Next slide. We show this every quarter. It's our general fund balance. The requirement is 17%. We currently sit about 37%. A little bit lower than we normally are, but still more than 2 times what we're required to be. Next slide. We like to share each quarterly report a little bit about our performance. So we highlighted Safe Community and the work that our public safety is doing to implement a community engagement and education plan, an amazing goal that they're doing wonderful things with. If you have the opportunity, please take a look at that, also at arvada.org. Next slide. And a little work that our Vibrant Community and Neighborhoods is doing related to waste hauling and trying to get that implemented here in the next 6 months. Next slide. Let's dive into the financials. An overview on the general fund. A little bit more colorful than we've been in the past, but property tax, sales tax, building revenue, and interest revenue are trending positive. Auto use has a monitor light. We were expecting this to be down. It is down. It's pretty close to budget. It's going the wrong direction, so we want to monitor that. And then finally, general use and court revenue we'll talk about here in a minute. Next slide. Sales tax, overall quite positive, up 5.9%, a little bit, grew a little bit compared to the information that you just received. So we had 1 more month in, so that last month was quite positive. But we're being led by 3 areas: retail, wholesale, and construction. If you look at those other categories of accommodations, utilities, other services, and real estate, those are all down and down significantly. Finance and insurance, information, and manufacturing have monitors, which mean that they are positive, but they're below budget. You might want to know the numbers behind this. Retail and wholesale are up 11 and 10%. Construction up 28%. All others are down anywhere from 6% to a high of 18%. Next slide. Same information carved up a different way. We talked to City Council a little over a year ago that we are converting from the categories that finance staff has used for 25 years to the categories the rest of the world uses. And so these are by NICS codes. And you will notice that we are led significantly by our top line: supermarkets and grocery, merchant and wholesalers. You will see full service restaurants shows up next, and that number is down. Councilmember Pfeiffer, you made reference to that earlier, down 21%. As you move down to the next, you will see what has jumped up significantly: electronic shopping and mail order. We've noticed a significant increase with the stay-at-home requirements, lots of people using that technology. As you move a little bit further down, I would like to point out limited service restaurants. Many people would call these fast casual or even fast food. That is holding on and doing okay, up about 3%. Next slide. Auto use, we talked already, down 10%. We were actually expecting it to be down 10%, so it's right where we thought it would be, but it is trending the wrong direction, so we will keep our eye on it. Next slide. Court revenue down significantly, 24%, after being down the last 2 years. A lot of this is related to the stay-at-home and the items related to COVID. We are keeping our eye on this. We do expect this to rebound once things open up a little bit more. Next slide. General use tax down 28%. This is investment by the business community. A little worrisome here, but not unexpected. If you look across the state and across the United States, many businesses are trying to hold on to their cash right now. That's what happens. We don't get the use tax on that. Next slide. Finally, if we take a look at our other funds, lots of green here, lots of very good management happening. We do have a monitor light on community development. This is the same as the second quarter. This just relates to the overhire we had to replace a 40-plus year employee where we wanted to have them here together at the same time. Capital projects, we did put a monitor light on the expenditures. We are noticing some increases there, certainly related to land acquisition and anything that requires people. Finally, we have a monitor light on golf on both the revenues and the fund balance. Golf is a tale of 2 operations. Golf itself is doing very well, but golf also has restaurants attached, and they face the same challenges as any of the other restaurants in the city. Finally, hospitality is all listed as red. As we know, hospitality has been closed since March the 16th, has decided to close its doors permanently, move and transition those items to the Arvada Center. And so while they're still on this list, they will come off next year. Next slide. A little bit about investments. Kind of an interesting challenge with the investments. We are up year to date. I do want to point out that we have two different investment philosophies. Our internal, which is very short term, averages about a 1.5 year duration. And then we do have a third party that does investments for us that can go a little bit further out, averaging a little over 3 years. And that will enable us to reap some of those benefits in a down investment market. One challenge, while we beat over the past 6 months, we will certainly be going down from this point. As investments come in, we have to invest and put our money back, and those are going to be at much smaller levels. Next slide. This is the final slide, just talks a little bit about our CARES Act funds and how City Council helped to make the decisions on how we were going to allocate the dollars. Graphically, you can see the majority of the money goes to businesses. That is the lowest on the graphic. You can also see that in the chart below, with the rest of the dollars being spread between internal city use, residential use, and nonprofits. We have been allocated $9.4 million to date. We've got out approximately $6.2 million. We will also see, the slide's different on here that is up there. 6.2 is the correct number. And tonight, there will be two other items that are on the agenda for approval for some of our nonprofits. Hopefully those will get approved and those additional dollars will go out. And that is my presentation for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. Any questions for Mr. Archer? Nice job. Didn't make it. That's all right. We've got a couple, there's nobody on Zoom or calling in last minute? No? Okay, cool. We have a couple of consent agenda items. We have our 20-098, a resolution authorizing the issuance of a purchase order in the amount of $175,132.33, excluding applicable tax, to Oracle America, Inc. for the purchase of Oracle software update license and support provided under support service number 4586060. And Resolution 20-099, a resolution authorizing change order number 3 to first renewed and amended agreement by and between the City of Arvada and Triple M Construction, LLC for the 2019 and 2020 concrete replacement projects in an amount not to exceed $800,000. Project number 20-ST-10. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councilmember Mario.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that consent items resolution R 20-098 and R 20-099 be approved.
Thank you. The vote is for approval. All votes have been cast, and that passes 6-0 with Mayor Williams being absent. And now I have 3 resolutions to consider this evening. The first is our 20-0100, resolution authorizing acceptance of an intergovernmental agreement establishing the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Community Noise Roundtable. Mr. Devon.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. In response to concerns associated with the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, the Jefferson County Board of County Commissioners have directed the formation of a Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Community Noise Roundtable. The purpose of this roundtable is to provide and promote a regional coordinated approach to collaborate on and address the noise impacts to the community surrounding the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. The members of this roundtable will include Jefferson County, Boulder County, the City and County of Broomfield, and the cities of Arvada, Louisville, and Westminster, and the town of Superior. During the summer, late spring and summer, there were scoping sessions that were facilitated by Jefferson County that resulted in the conditions that were incorporated into the proposed intergovernmental agreement and the bylaws that are included as an attachment to the intergovernmental agreement. The IGA and the bylaws have been reviewed by our City Attorney's Office, and there were no significant concerns identified as a result of that review. We believe that that what's been incorporated into the IGA fairly states the process and the collaborative approach to addressing the concerns associated with the airport. We believe the scoping, the roundtable is actually a very good solution to some of the concerns. We believe that it's in Arvada's interest to have a seat at the table, to make sure that noise complaints are addressed in a manner that doesn't disadvantage our residents, to make sure that safety concerns associated with the operation of the airport are properly looked into and reviewed, and to also understand the economic impacts of the airport as something that is a positive generator to the economy. Therefore, we are in complete support of this proposed IGA, and we recommend approval of the resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Pfeiffer.
All right. Sorry, there was a lot of noise. All right, I move that I move that Resolution 20-100, a resolution authorizing acceptance of an intergovernmental agreement establishing the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Community Noise Roundtable, be approved.
And Councilmember Ford, you wish to speak?
I do. I wanted to ask our attorney a question about the community participation, because I know that these bylaws were somewhat based on the Rocky Flats Stewardship Council and the way it's conducted. And since we just had a vote and this came up in the meeting, I wanted to just bring this out, that with the community participants, I would like to make a recommendation that we have some kind of criteria for community participants in some way that says that they are either directly impacted or, that they're a part of the communities that are directly impacted. Because we had in our recent election someone who was from another community, and when it came up for a vote, that actually was stated as a reason not to vote for those individuals. And I felt that that should have been in the bylaws in the beginning, so that people don't apply for the committee that would be then deemed inappropriate or, not related to the communities. Do you see that as an issue here?
I don't know that it necessarily becomes a legal issue, although it can become an issue related to clarity. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I think it's a good point. What I would suggest doing is the bylaws as they stand now have been agreed to generally by the participant groups. And so what I would suggest doing is having your appointed representative on this group make the suggestion that the bylaws be amended to include those qualifications. And that's how I'd suggest approaching it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ford, do you want to vote? And Councilmember Pfeiffer, you had a question?
I just want to apologize for not asking for questions first. I was getting ahead of myself.
No, that was me. I absolutely didn't either, so it's all good. So I'll take that one. All right, all votes have been cast, and that passes 6-0, the mayor being absent. All right, we have Resolution 20-101, a resolution authorizing the subrecipients agreement between the City of Arvada and Highland Hills Park and Recreation District for CARES Act funding. Mr. Devon.
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council, this subrecipient agreement is between the city and the Highland Hills Park and Recreation District. This was something that was brought to our attention through the collaboration that our excellent staff and our vibrant community and neighborhoods work system, Parks Golf Department, brought to our attention that Highland Hills is in need of funds to offset expenses associated with part-time staff salaries and personal protective equipment that were incurred as a result of the pandemic. And there was the ability to utilize these funds, in particular the share of the funds that were allocated from the CARES Act through Adams County, about $241,000. And as you can see, we have about $234,000 made up of part-time staff salaries and personal protective equipment that would be applied by Highland Hills to this expenditure. And I wanted to spend a minute talking a little bit about why we are doing this with another government entity, and that's because this government entity was pretty well impacted by the pandemic. They are a valued partner. The Highland Hills Park and Recreation District works with us on the provision of parks and recreation services for our Adams County residents. And as you may recall, we collaborated with this agency in the development of Clear Creek Valley Regional Park, and that is a park that we utilize for special events. So we have a very good relationship with them. They're a partner in how we provide parks and recreation services to the community, and therefore we're recommending the approval of this resolution for the allocation of the CARES Act funds.
Thank you, Mr. Devon. Do I have any council questions before we vote? Sorry about that. And motion to approve the resolution, or not? Councilmember Ford.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that R20-101, a resolution authorizing the subrecipient agreement between City of Arvada and Highland Hills Park and Recreation District for CARES Act funding, be approved.
Thank you. All votes are cast. That passed 6-0 with Mayor Williams being absent. And last but certainly not least, Resolution 20-102, a resolution authorizing the subrecipient agreement between the City of Arvada and Apex Parks and Rec District for CARES Act funding. Mr. Devon again.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. The purpose of this agreement is similar to the last one. It's to enter into a funding agreement with the Apex Parks and Recreation District, which has also been significantly impacted by the pandemic. And as a subrecipient, they would utilize the funds in a somewhat similar manner to how Highland Hills is using it. They will be using the funds for the unemployment insurance claims in this situation as they furloughed and had to lay off. Unfortunately, many of their team members, those members filed for unemployment, and the unemployment insurance claims were certainly a significant cost, which we're proposing the assistance for them with this agreement. Also, additional costs for personal protective equipment totaling $431,000. This is coming out of the Jefferson County allocation of the CARES Act funds, which you may recall was approximately $9.2 million that was allocated from Jefferson County. Again, we evaluated the benefits of the subrecipient agreement. This is a very vital community partner that provides the majority of recreational programming and services in our community. As the City Council is well aware, we have a quarterly meeting with this agency to make sure that we continue to collaborate and work with them on the provision of services to our community. Keeping them financially sound is certainly a benefit to our residents and a benefit to how we provide services for our community. Therefore, we're recommending approval of the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Devon. Councilmember Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that R20-102, a resolution authorizing the subrecipient agreement between the City of Arvada and Apex Park and Recreation District for CARES Act funding be approved.
Thank you. Vote is for approval. All votes have been cast. Passes 6-0 with the mayor being absent. We don't have any ordinances for first reading this evening, so I get to open the public hearing with my sparkly gavel. I'm going to do on two, Council Bill 20-029 and Council 20-030 together. Council Bill 20-029 is an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 102 Utilities of the Arvada City Code pertaining to water user rates. And Council Bill 20-030, an ordinance amending Section 102-206 of Chapter 102 Utilities of the Arvada City Code pertaining to wastewater user rates, ordinance number 4747. And Mr. Devon.
Yes, again, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. As you may recall, 2 weeks ago when we put these items on for first reading, and it was also in association with the final consideration of the proposed 2021-2022 budget, we presented provided a presentation regarding the fees and how the fees would be utilized. This is the final action, really, of the budget and also of the user rates for water and wastewater. Approval of these ordinances will allow us to secure the necessary revenue and fees to operate the water and wastewater utilities. Therefore, we're recommending approval of both ordinances tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Devon. Ms. Roche, do we have anybody signed up to speak? Not on Zoom or anything else? All right, we'll close the public comment portion, open it up for council questions or comments. And Councilmember Ford.
I'd like to make the motion if there are no questions.
Go for it.
I move that CB 20-029, an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 102 Utilities of the Arvada City Code pertaining to water users' rates, be approved on final reading, numbered 4746, and ordered published by title only.
And Councilmember Marriott, did you wish to speak? Or?
I did, thank you. I just want to make a comment. I will be voting yes on this. I think we have a lot to be proud of in Arvada with our utilities, particularly our water utility. We actually purchase about half our water from Denver Water, and then we treat it and distribute it to our customers for a lower cost than Denver treats their own water and delivers it to their customers. I want to point out we have some of the lowest water rates in the region, and we're doing it with having acquired a water supply that provides us for complete build out of the city of Arvada, one of the few cities that has done that. And in addition to that, we are not providing low water rates by not paying attention to our infrastructure. In fact, this water rate increase, a small part of it goes to maintaining our existing infrastructure, making improvements there. So we are not only taking care of it now, but we're taking care of it in the future. So I think it's good that we have all that stuff working for us in Arvada. I'm really proud of the job that our city team does in both getting the supply and then getting the treated water to our customers and taking care of our system. I know we have one of the lower rates of water line breaks, because we take care of our stuff. So anyway, for all those reasons, I will be voting yes as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Marriott. And for those of you watching at home that did not see the presentation, that was last week, and that's why we didn't have the presentation tonight, because we did have it last week. So all votes have been cast. That passes 6-0 with Mayor Williams being absent. Now, because we did such a good job on 2 hearings at once, let's do 2 more at once. I'm going to open the public hearing on the 2021 Annual Action Plan for 2021.
We have to vote on
Mayor
another.
Pro Tem.
Yeah. What?
The wastewater?
Oh, I thought we did both.
No, I just did the one.
Oh, you just did one? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought we were voting on both. All right, let's go back up a little bit. Council Bill, go ahead, 20-030.
I move that CB 20-030, an ordinance amending Section 102-206 of Chapter 102 Utilities of the Arvada City Code pertaining to wastewater users' rates, be approved on final reading, numbered 4747, and ordered published by title only.
All votes have been cast. Passes 6-0 with Mayor being absent. All right, let's try this again. I'd just like to bang this gavel. Public hearing on the 2021 Annual Action Plan for 2021 Community Development Block Grant Funding and 2021 Human Services Grant Funding. It's our 20-103, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of City of Arvada Human Services funding pool funds, that's funny, for 2021 to agencies providing emergency help, program assistance, and other assistance to Arvada citizens, and our 20-104, a resolution approving an annual action plan submission for housing and community development programs for the City of Arvada, Colorado. Mr. Devon.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. So tonight, you will be opening a public hearing to take testimony and then close the public hearing. And then an action item will be to consider a resolution authorizing the annual action plan for the submission of HUD that will follow as a specific action. What I'd like to do is summarize that our human services organization and our community play a vital role by addressing essential needs such as housing, food, education, health, and advocacy. Recognizing the importance of supporting human services organizations, as you well know, the City of Arvada will award $260,000 in 2021 to organizations assisting low to moderate income Arvada residents. We are very fortunate to have the Arvada Human Services Advisory Committee, which reviews the applications received for funding, and we have a member of that committee here tonight to make a recommendation to the City Council for the expenditure of the budgeted funds. So tonight is my understanding that the member of the Human Services Advisory Committee that will be addressing the City Council is Laura Andes, and Laura will be coming to us via Zoom. I believe that's Laura right there on the screen. So without further hesitation, I invite Laura to go ahead and make her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Devon.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and Council. My name is Laura Andes, and I'm here on behalf of the Arvada Human Services Committee to bring you our recommendations on how to allocate the $260,000 budgeted for social services in 2020 from both city funds and the Community Development Block Grant funds. First, I'd like to thank the Council for continuing to support human services in the budget at this higher level. The work of these organizations are more important than ever, given the tremendous social impacts of COVID-19. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the great work of the city staff in administering the grant program, including the solicitation of applications and the organization of the committee, particularly Carrie Espinosa and Lisa Snyder. They made the process easy and efficient for us. The solicitation of the applications and their review followed the same process as past years. The applications were open in August and received in September. The committee then had 3 weeks to review, and we met on October 5th to review our rankings. We reviewed the applications based on the criteria of identified need, budget reasonableness, benefit to Arvada and its citizens, leverage of other funds, agency expertise, duplication of services, collaboration with other organizations, and program sustainability. We came to a consensus on the applications to recommend for funding, including Community Table, Family Tree, Ralston House, Caring Clinic, Volunteers for America, Jeffco Action Center, Hands of the Carpenter, Project Angel Heart, Jeffco Center for Mental Health, CASA of Jeffco and Gilpin, Hope House, A Precious Child, Senior Resource Center, the Audio Information Network, Outdoor Lab, and Mission Arvada of the Rising Church. You can see the amounts in your packet. The advisory board feels that these groups are well placed to address the issues of the moment in Arvada, particularly those exacerbated by COVID-19, including food insecurity, housing insecurity, isolation, mental health, among other pressing needs. Thank you for the opportunity to present these recommendations to the Council.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to reserve the motion if there are no questions.
Absolutely. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
I do have just a question, maybe Laura, to you, and I recall, or maybe it's the team, the Arvada team, but as we give out this money and they come back every year and ask for additional funds, can you refresh my memory? I think we look at a performance measure somewhere in here, and I just wanted to make sure, is that the case? And maybe you can explain just a little bit about how do we ensure that these funds come back to Arvadans, and how do we make sure it's going to nonprofits that are showing the performance measures that we're expecting?
That is a great question. One of the key aspects of the application process is around measurable outputs. I do evaluation for a living, so I have to say that's part that I read pretty closely. And they have to identify exactly how many Arvadans are going to benefit and how they're going to measure that. And that's something that's scored on pretty carefully. Also, if they received grants in the past, they do have to describe how they performed in past years. And we look to city staff also to provide some insight on how they view the grantees have been performed, and that helps inform our decisions. Does that answer your question?
It does, but let me solidify it even a little bit more. It does it, so they tell you the way that they're going to measure it. Is there any actions that happen in the upcoming next year that shows that they delivered on those performance measures?
If they, as far as what the committee sees,
Yeah.
if they received a grant in past years, they have to, in their subsequent grant, describe the outcomes that they received.
Okay, so first-year grantees, we may not see that data until they apply.
And there
for
are
the
2 first-year grantees in this.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So I just was making sure that, with the funding being as tight as it is, we're always wanting to make sure we get the biggest bang for our bucks. And without these community partners, we can have a quality of living here in our community. So I just want to make sure that as we put our own city staff and teams under performance measures, we also, would expect the same kind of thought process with our nonprofits when we give out money like this. So no, thank you very much, and thank you to the committee for all your hard work. Great job.
I just have one quick question. On the 4 applicants that were not recommended for funding, could you speak to why? Oop, you're on mute. Miss Andes, you're on mute.
Yeah, do you want me to speak to each one individually? I'd have to pull up my notes. I can speak more broadly.
Let's start with broadly.
Yeah, I would say they either did not adequately, they weren't based in Arvada, and we weren't clear that they would benefit Arvada residents as much as potentially other residents in the county. They were either very, very small, and one of them is not necessarily a 401 nonprofit and hadn't filed that paperwork, and didn't seem like they were quite up to the task of what they were applying. And third, didn't sort of meet they scored very poorly across the board on all of the criteria based on the application. It was just a very sparse application.
Okay. Mostly I wanted to speak to Colorado homeless families. They've been on this list for years, and all of a sudden they didn't get the funding. And we don't need to speak specifically about them right now. It's just caught my eye when we were going through it. I'm like, wait, what's going on? They do such great work right here in Arvada. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Any other council questions? Awesome. Do you want to call on them? Or Bruce, do you want to go ahead?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we have Lori Wallowitz.
Thank you.
From
Go
the
ahead,
Action-
Ms. Wallowitz. If you want to unmute.
Here we go. All right, am I good?
You sure are.
Oh, perfect. So, good evening, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, honorable members of City Council and others. My name is Lori Wallowitz, and I work at the Action Center, where I am the Director of Programs. The Action Center provides an immediate and compassionate response to those in our community experiencing hardship by offering services and resources needed to stabilize their lives. And in this pandemic-stricken world, we have been providing services to community members in ways we never thought possible. The volume of people coming to us daily continues to escalate to numbers we never imagined we could or would serve in a day. While our daily average is close to 180 households, last Thursday our drive-through grocery saw 248 households coming to pick up food. Since mid-March, we have been providing pre-packed drive-through service model, and each month our average number of households served in a day rises. To meet this demand, we have had to purchase a significant amount of food, spending between $10,000 and $20,000 each month. This has been possible because of the support we have received from multiple sources within our community, including CARES Act funds granted to us by the City of Arvada. We are so grateful for your support, and thank you for granting a portion of your CARES dollars to us to help Action Center augment our food purchasing. Each day, we have Arvada residents coming to us for food. While the numbers served by our grocery have more than tripled since March, the numbers regarding rent assistance have increased by nearly 500%. Since mid-March, the Action Center has provided over $700,000 in rent assistance to 309 households in Jeffco. By comparison, for all of 2019, we had $84,000 available for rent assistance that was used to help 58 households. We are so fortunate to have a wonderful partnership with Carrie Espinoza and her team within the city of Arvada. The numbers of people seeking rent assistance are too much for any one agency or organization to process, and we appreciate the rent assistance program that Arvada has implemented. We have been serving Arvada residents directly. We have been referring households back to the city to ensure that as many people as possible are able to get the help they need. 62 Arvada households have received rent assistance from the Action Center since the COVID crisis began. And again, we are extremely appreciative of the 2020 Arvada CDBG grant awarded to us. This money was expended in less than 3 months. We are generously awarded additional CARES Act funding to provide rent assistance to Arvada residents. Again, we thank you for entrusting these funds to the Action Center. We are nearly out of that money, yet the need continues to grow, and the money requested far outweighs the money available. As we look towards the next round of CDBG funding from the city of Arvada, we have again requested funds for rent assistance and are here tonight to show our support that Arvada CDBG funds again be allocated to rent assistance, and thank you in advance for your consideration of our request. There was a need for rent assistance before the pandemic, and now that need is exponentially greater. So thank you for your time and attention, and most importantly, thank you for supporting the Action Center and trusting us to serve the residents of Arvada.
And thank you for all you do, Ms. Wallowitz. We appreciate you and the great work that your organization does.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Rush, do we have anybody else on the line to speak? Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Simpson.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Should I do both motions since we opened both hearings, or should I do one motion at a time?
I think we're just going to do one because we have a presentation on the next, right, Mark?
Perfect. All right. And
I apologize. No, actually, that's the presentation.
We can do two?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I
Let's do
always
it.
I always like to have each one separate with a separate motion. You can have the public hearing open together, and that's okay, but just as a matter of preference.
We'll run through the motions on both. How's that?
That sounds great. Thank you, Madam City Attorney. All right. I also, before I run the motion, I just want to thank all of the city staff, Ms. Espinoza and her team, for the incredible housing assistance work they do in our community, and everyone on the committee for their hard work. These are some truly worthy organizations, and we are excited to be supporting them with these funds so that they continue to do the very vital work that they have for helping the residents of Arvada. So, I move that R20-103, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of City of Arvada Human Services Funding Pool Funds for 2020 to agencies providing emergency help, program assistance, and other assistance to Arvada citizens be approved.
Motions for approval. All votes have been cast. Passes 6-0 with the mayor being absent.
All right. And now I move that R20-104, a resolution approving an annual action plan submission for housing and community development programs for the city of Arvada, Colorado, be approved.
Motions for approval. Passes 6-0 with the mayor being absent. Fantastic. Anybody signed up to speak in the public comment last 5 minutes? No. Any council committee reports this evening? Councilmember Ford.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to encourage the citizens of Arvada that after they shop on Small Business Saturday on November 28th, that they would remember that our wonderful Arvada Center is having a virtual art market this year starting November 30th through December 19th. And this is a great way to support the Arvada Center and individual artists, especially at this difficult time when many are not working. And this virtual art market is also due to CARES Act funding. So we're very appreciative for that, and we look forward to seeing everyone shop.
Thank you, Councilmember Ford. Councilmember Simpson.
Thank you. I just am very, very excited to make an announcement that forthwith looking for an email from the Arvada Chamber of Commerce. We are going to be launching Chow for Champions Holiday Edition to support our first responders on Thanksgiving and Christmas days. We just, in fact, just hired a caterer today, so I'm very excited to be doing that and partnering with a local resident by the name of Kimber Just, who sort of came up with the idea, and she and I partnered up together to really steamroll it. Now it's getting out of control, and I'm really excited about it. So, yes, and so please support that. It's going to be great for all the people who help us on the days when we get to be home with our families, and they're out working to make sure our community stays safe and protected, and they can be there for us if we need them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Simpson. Councilmember Marriott.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate one more time, the Small Business Saturday is coming. This year, I would propose to everybody that you make this Small Business Christmas, or Small Business Holiday Season. If you can find it, please buy it here in our community. Your purchases here circulate through our community, pass through more than 20 hands, and helps provide businesses that provide jobs as well as tax revenue in our community. You know, when I reflect back on this last year, we had quite a interesting issue with about recycling in our community. And what's better than recycling your cardboard boxes you get from Amazon is don't get the boxes and get it here in your community, and you're doing even better than by recycling them that way. So please think about your local businesses. Find somewhere new that you've never patronized before, and treat your family to all that our community has to offer this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that if you don't want to leave your house due to the COVID virus, there are stores that could probably sell it to you online right here in Arvada if you give them a call. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
I just want to remind everyone tomorrow's election day, so go vote.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Ford.
I'd like to make a motion
Absolutely.
to appoint John Marriott and Mark Devon as an alternate to the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Community Noise Roundtable.
Okay, so the motion is for Councilmember Marriott to be the lead and Mr. Devon to be the alternate. All votes are cast. That passes 6-0 with Mayor Williams being absent. Any other council members have anything? Mr. Devon?
Yes. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, next Monday we'll have a workshop. We'll give you an update on the West 57th Avenue corridor concept. We'll also discuss travel demand management, and we'll have a discussion regarding the Charter Review Committee. That'll be at the November 9th workshop, so we look forward to presenting that information to all of you at that time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Morris, do you have anything for us?
Nothing from me.
Thank you. All right, we are adjourned.